this video, I'm going to be sharing with you my 7-year journey battling with eating disorders. I have included timestamps in this video, so feel free to skip to the part that most interests you. So number one, I'm going to be sharing with you what triggered my eating disorder. Number two, I'm going to be talking you through what an eating disorder looked like and felt like for me over those 7 years and how it progressed. Number three, what triggered me to finally heal myself. And number four, what my life looks like now that I'm completely healed from my eating disorders. So what is my relationship with diet and exercise? What is my exercise routine? What do I eat on a daily basis? So just before I get into what triggered my eating disorder, I want to take you back to the early teenage years and what was my relationship then like with food and exercise. I've always been naturally slim. When I was younger, from a very young age, my parents took me swimming. I ended up joining a swimming club and doing swimming training 3 times a week and competitions as well. My mum always cooked us home cooked food. She always cooked us food from scratch, wholesome, whole foods. She'd give us big portions, and I wasn't a fussy eater. Literally, I would eat anything that my mum served up. So how did I go from having such a good relationship with exercise and healthy eating to then battling with anorexia and bulimia for 7 years? So around the age of 16, 17, I can remember I decided to quit swimming club. I can remember I wanted to go out with my friends. I told my dad it was boring. Literally, I broke my dad's heart because he used to love me and my sister going swimming. But I was like, Dad, I'm not doing swimming club anymore. And I didn't do any exercise. And I can remember, like I said, my mum always fed us big portions. And I can remember I had this thought in my head, and I was like, if I'm not doing swimming club anymore, if I'm not doing exercise, I need to reduce the amount of food that I'm eating in order to stay slim. Side note, that was a confused and irrational way of thinking. I didn't need to reduce my portion size. I was eating really healthy, but this is when I can notice little destructive thoughts like this started creeping in. So I think I started to eat smaller portions. Also, another thing that I'll mention, my mum, she has always, in my opinion, she's always had a bad relationship with food. She barely eats anything. And I've always seen that growing up. I honestly think my mom has an eating disorder, but she'll never admit it. So when it comes to the last meal of the day, my mum would never have a full plate of food like me, my dad, and my sister. She'd always have like a little breakfast bowl of whatever we were having. So, say we had lasagna, we'd all have a full plate full, and she'd just have this little bowl. But I can remember that's what I started doing as well. Around this age, 16, 17, I started to copy off my mum, and I'd only have a small bowl full of food. Then something happened that literally tipped me over the edge, and something snapped in my head. And honestly, that changed the trajectory of my life for the next 7 years. So I was going out with this guy. He was my first serious boyfriend. And we'd been going out for 10 months. We said that we loved each other. And he one day literally ghosted me. He didn't tell me the relationship was ending. He just never spoke to me again. And I can remember I called him up after a week and I was like, why are you not speaking to me? And he basically said that his sister was pregnant, so we needed to spend time with family. But I cannot tell you how much that hurt me. Like, my first boyfriend, being with him for 10 months, first time I'd been in love, and one day he just leaves your house and never even speaks to you ever again. That hurt me bad. That caused me a lot of pain. And then I can remember I was out on a night out with my friends, and one of my friends said, "Oh, do you know the girl there in the toilet? That's who your ex cheated on you with." So apparently when I was with him as well, towards the end, he was cheating on me. And I saw this girl, and she had the skinniest frame, like so skinny. She had huge boobs. And in that moment, something in my mind just snapped. And I was like, I need to look like her. I need to look like her. And that night I went home, and I can remember the next day my mum served me up my dinner and we were having pasta. And I can remember taking it upstairs and throwing half of it in the bin and feeling really proud of myself and really satisfied that I'd done that. Now looking back, it's crazy how that thought that I had when I looked at that girl and I thought, I need to look like her. My brain told me, this destructive voice in my head told me, Gabrielle, you need to look like her. You need to starve yourself to look like her, because for some reason I thought that's what needed to be done to make me feel better, to make me feel happier about the situation. I was in so much pain, felt so rejected, and I was looking at myself and thought, that's what needs fixing. It's my external appearance that needs fixing. Instead of being my own best friend in that situation, I was being my own worst enemy. When I was down, literally I was kicking myself harder to the ground. I was being, when I look back now, that was so cruel. I was hurting. Like, now that I've healed myself, if ever I was going through that again, I would never do that to myself. When you're really hurting, that isn't the time to think, you know what, I'm going to start starving myself. That's going to be the answer to my problems here. But you know what? I was young, I was naive, and I was struggling, and I was in pain, and that was my coping mechanism. So I've got to forgive myself for that. So moving on, what did having an eating disorder look like for me? So the first 18 months were really bad. I was literally barely eating nothing. There were days of the week when I would barely eat nothing. I was just surviving off constant cups of coffee, um, constantly checking the back of packs, checking calories. I can remember constantly feeling tired. I started having naps in the day. I never used to have naps. Um, I came up with like crafty ways to cut out calories. So I decided that I didn't want to eat breakfast anymore. Even though I'd eaten breakfast for 17 years, I decided, oh no, breakfast makes me feel sick. Decided that I didn't want to eat meat anymore. That's how I actually started my vegetarianism. And I'm still vegetarian now. Well, actually pescatarian. Sometimes I eat fish. But in order to not eat my evening meals, I decided I wasn't going to eat meat anymore. But my mum soon cottoned on to that and started making us vegetarian meals. There were loads of excuses that I made up not to eat food. And yeah, I was constantly tired, constantly freezing. I was constantly, like, every day measuring my thighs, setting myself goals, constantly weighing myself, had this goal in mind, like what I wanted to get to. And honestly, when I look back at photos of myself, I'll try and put some photos up on the screen. I actually don't have many photos around that time, because even though I was happy that I was looking super thin, I couldn't stand pictures of myself. Literally, I can remember even before I developed eating disorders, whenever my friends would take pictures, I couldn't stand having a photo taken of myself. I was like, no, they'd be having a group photo and I'd be like, no way, I don't want a photo. And that's because I just couldn't stand how I looked, which when I look back now and say it out loud is super sad. I can remember that my clothes started hanging off me. I'd buy like really tiny outfits during that period in my life. When I look back now, if you develop eating disorders, it's always associated with bad mental health. So underlying the eating disorder is usually depression and anxiety. And I definitely had developed depression and anxiety. I was so miserable. Whenever my mum and dad would try and confront me about my eating, I was so aggressive. I would literally just shut them down straight away, or just shut up. I don't want to hear it. Stop going on at me. I was such an angry girl. I was so angry. I think I was angry at myself and I was angry at the world. I was just having an absolute miserable time. Having an eating disorder, it completely consumes you. The energy, you barely have any energy. So I ended up quitting my A levels twice. This was around the age of 17, and my life just really started to go downhill. I felt completely lost. I became very obsessive with thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do in life. I don't know what job I'm going to do. So instead of just going along with the subjects that I picked that I was passionate about, so for example, I picked art, I picked English, I was really passionate about art. I started to really question, where is this going to get me? Like, what am I going to be, an art teacher? I don't want to be an art teacher. And I just got really into my head and I just ended up being at a complete standstill. And my eating disorder just took over everything. The little bit of energy that I did have had to go towards counting calories and obsessing about my thighs and my weight. And honestly, during this time, the only thing that made me happy, I would literally go out and get really drunk Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and even sometimes I'd go out on Sunday. I was going out 4 nights a week and I lived for going out, getting absolutely annihilated on drink. Honestly, like I wouldn't eat all day before I went out because I'd say to myself, oh, I can't eat before I go out because I'm going to be bloated in my outfit. What on earth? And I would go out in the tiniest outfits. I can remember having this white pair of Topshop shorts, and honestly, they were like a baby's nappy. They were tiny. And I'd wear huge heels, I'd have all my legs out, I'd have like tiny tops on. And I just lived for external validation. I lived for going out and getting attention off guys. I had a huge void inside me, a huge growing hole. And in my 17-year-old mind, I thought that I could fill that hole with attention off men and looking at my external appearance and getting a buzz off that. And honestly, as I've got older, I've realized the external things, your appearance, getting attention off men, that doesn't come close to filling that void within you. It will only increase the size of the void. Honestly, on these nights out, I would get so drunk. I can remember I'd make terrible decisions when it came to guys. I'd go off with people that I barely knew. And I put myself in really unsafe situations. But when I look back, I had zero regard for my safety, zero regard. And honestly, I was destroying myself. I was slowly making myself disappear. And when I look back, I just feel like I had a huge hatred towards myself. I absolutely hated myself. If you'd have asked me at the time, do you hate yourself? I'd have said no. But my actions said otherwise. And I would get that drunk that I'd make terrible decisions. I'd come home, get in bed, and I would literally be spinning in my bed and I'd be frightened to go to sleep because I felt that drunk. I thought, there's a chance here I'm never going to wake up. And I can remember my mum, she used to put a hot water bottle in my bed in the winter. And I was that drunk, I couldn't feel how hot this hot water bottle was. And in the morning, I'd wake up and I'd literally have blisters on my legs and scars on my legs from this hot water bottle. During this time, I realized I was asleep. I only just woke up. I'm 35 now, and I'd say I only just woke up at 30. So from the age of probably 11 to 30 years old, I was asleep. And what I mean by that is that narrative in my mind, that self-deprecating narrative that beat me down every day, told me I wasn't good enough, told me to starve myself, told me to pick my skin, told me to get obliterated on alcohol. I did whatever that voice told me. I never questioned, I never even took a breath and thought, wait a minute, why is that voice saying that? Like, why have I got such negative thoughts in my head? I don't have to do what that voice is telling me to do. That if I listen to that voice, I'm going to sabotage my life. I'm going to harm myself. But during this time, I didn't have the capability to realize the consciousness, to realize that I wasn't my thoughts, and I could separate myself from my thoughts, and I could take a breath and just relax while those thoughts passed by and not act on those thoughts. I didn't have the capability to do that at that age because people didn't speak about things like consciousness and self love and not being your thoughts. Really, at that time, when I was having those really anxious and depressed thoughts and having thoughts that I wanted to harm myself, I should have been soothing myself, taking extra care of myself, being my own best friend. But I didn't do that because I was asleep and I was really young and naive. So when it came to exercising, I was literally doing no exercise. And then when I went to uni at the age of 21, I started going to the gym a bit, but literally I just go on the cross trainer for half an hour and I don't even think I kept that up. So basically, I was doing no consistent exercise during this time. After a period of 18 months, and I can remember a low point was I was in front of the fire as usual at home. I'd lie down in front of the fire. Literally, I was like nearly on top of this fire because I was so cold, and I'd be in my dressing gown. And I can remember my mum, she told me, she saw me in front of the fire, and she said that my hip bones were sticking out my dressing gown. And she called a eating disorder helpline, and she said, like, I'm really worried about my daughter, she's starving herself, like things are getting really bad. And they basically said they couldn't do anything unless I admitted that I needed help, and there was no way that I was admitting that I needed help. In my head at the time, I knew that I had an eating disorder. I definitely knew it, but I didn't care. I didn't care. I thought, yeah, I've got an eating disorder, but it's fine. I'm managing it. Like, yeah, I'm skinny, but I just thought it was fine. I just accepted it and thought that I don't know how long I thought I could go on like that. Anyway, after the 18 months, when I hit a real low with my weight, all of a sudden I started binge eating. So I can remember, particularly on Sundays after I'd been on a night out, on the Sunday, I'd just be at home all day, hungover, and I'd end up ploughing through a whole box of Crunchy Nut cornflakes, like the big box, in one sitting, in one day. And I felt so sick afterwards. There was other things that I would eat as well, like I'd eat other foods. I can't really remember off the top of my head, but I'd gorge on foods. I'd gone from barely eating anything to absolutely gorging on foods. I think, looking back, once I started eating food, something kicked in my brain, and I think my brain and body were like, oh my God, there's food and we need to make the most of it. We need to make the most of this food right now. And honestly, I could not stop eating. So I probably went from a size 6 to a size 12 or 14 in the space of a month. And I can remember going out, and I can remember this one girl that I used to see around town all the time. And I can remember her face. She was shocked when she saw me because she was used to me being like this skeletal frame. And all of a sudden I was like quite curvy, and my boobs had grown and my face had filled out so much. And I can remember I wasn't really bothered that I'd put on this weight. I didn't, I can remember like I didn't feel really bad about it. I think maybe I looked in the mirror and I thought, yeah, I look all right. Like I felt confident in myself. But then after that, I can remember thinking, do you know what? I think a lot of my clothes weren't really fitting me. And I can remember thinking, I need to tone this back down again. Like I need to lose some weight. So then, probably from the age of 18 up until 24, I wasn't dangerously skinny, but I was skinny. I was really slim. I'll try and put a picture up on the screen now. This picture. So when I was about, I think I was 21. I think it was the first year of uni. I went to Ibiza, and there's a picture I'm going to put up. I was on a boat. I was on a boat party, and you can see in that picture like how skinny my legs are. Like I've got knobbly knees in that picture. So that's how skinny I was for like from the age of 18 to 24. I was still really thin, but I wasn't as thin as what I was before. I still had a bad relationship with food, so I was still eating the bare minimum. I don't think I was eating breakfast. I was eating like horrible things, like just boring stuff that just wasn't delicious or enjoyable at all. So I can remember for lunch, I'd have the same lunch every day. To be honest, I have the same lunch a lot of the time now. Um, I was eating tuna on a pita bread, on a brown pita bread with like, I don't know if I put salad cream on there, salt and pepper. It was just rubbish, absolutely rubbish. And then usually for the last meal of the day, dinner time, tea time, whatever you want to call it, I would eat two fish fingers on a pita bread with lettuce. And I can remember at the time I was living with some friends, and my friend Chris used to call me two fish finger gabs because that's all I used to eat for my dinner. And then I can remember eating some other horrible stuff, like boring. Like I can remember getting frozen fish from the supermarket, cooking it in the microwave and having frozen veg with it. Obviously, not actually frozen. I'd like cook it in the pan with some, I don't know, some sauce or something. But yeah, it was just so terrible and boring and like miserable. My mind was still consumed with like calories, and I knew that I wasn't eating enough. Like, I wasn't eating 3 meals a day. Not that you have to eat 3 meals a day, but I knew that I was wary. I had this in my mind like, you can't eat 3 meals a day or you'll be fat, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I can remember my dad used to say to me, he was like, Gabrielle, like, your genetics were all tall and slim. You are not going to get fat from eating 3 meals a day. But how skinny I wanted to be, I couldn't afford to eat 3 meals a day. Like I wanted to be really skinny. So that didn't allow me to eat 3 meals a day. And my dad didn't understand that. And obviously I wasn't going to explain that to him. But I was still cold all the time, still tired. My mental health around this time was terrible, still struggling with anxiety and depression, still wanting to get validation off people, still feeling completely lost. My career wasn't going in the right direction. All my friends were really accelerating in their careers and really doing well, and they were super motivated and driven, and I just wasn't. I just absolutely wasn't. And I just felt like a failure. I felt weak. I felt weird. I just felt pathetic, to be honest. But when I look back, me thinking those things about myself, me comparing myself to others and feeling that I'm saying to myself that I'm weak and pathetic and I'm weird, this was the whole reason how I got into this situation in the first place. The narrative in your head, what you're saying to yourself every day, if you're beating yourself down, if you're believing these horrible thoughts, that was the reason that I had this eating disorder in the first place and felt like I had to be skinny to be happy and to accept myself. So then I hit the age of 24, and I was starting to grow tired of being tired all the time. The upkeep of constantly looking at calories, like restricting my food. I'm someone, I've always loved food. Like, even when I had my eating disorder, I still wanted to eat the food, but I was holding myself back. And I think I was growing tired of living like this. And I thought, there must be a better way to live than this. Like, I can't carry on with this. Like, this is no way to live. So at the age of 24, I can remember as well, if I'm completely honest, a big catalyst for my healing was that the trends started to change. So around this age, I noticed on social media, girls were starting to go to the gym. Girls were starting to get strong. They were starting to build muscle. They were starting to build their booty. And it just shows how easily we are influenced by these trends. And that was a huge part of me getting well. I wanted to follow along with this new trend. Being skinny, heroin chic, whatever they called it, that was no longer in trend. That was no longer popular. That was getting phased out, and now the gym girl was coming along. So I wanted to jump on this bandwagon. Honestly, it's sad that I was so influenced by these trends, but I am really grateful that the trends changed at the same time, because since that age, I've got better and I've healed and I've never gone back. I've never gone back to having an eating disorder. So I am thankful that the trends changed, because that's honestly a huge thing that saved me. At the age of 24, I also started to date this personal trainer. And I didn't really have the courage to go to the gym. And I spoke to him and said I wanted to go to the gym. And he took me and he literally showed me 4 exercises. He showed me how to do squats on the squat rack. He showed me how to do walking lunges with 2 dumbbells, how to do Russian twists with the kettlebell for your abs. And what was the last one? Oh, how to do planks. And I learned just 4 exercises and I repeated those. I think I went 5 times a week, 6 times a week. For that first month, I only did those 4 exercises. But also, I dedicated myself and pushed myself to eat more. So, literally, overnight, in the morning, I started eating porridge with honey and milk. For my lunch, I'd eat an egg salad with couscous, 2 eggs, salad. I was also eating cottage cheese and crackers to up my protein. And for my dinner, I was eating grilled salmon most of the time with like garlicky greens, mash. What else did I eat? I'd have green Thai curry with prawns and rice. And I'd also eat another rice dish that had prawns in it, rice, and then I'd mix like a green pesto sauce in it. Obviously, I ate other things as well, but I can remember at the time I was living in Derby in England. That's near Nottingham in the centre of England. And I can remember eating those 3 dishes a lot. But yeah, I just threw myself into this recovery and I realized I was really good at doing weights. I got really strong. I was really determined. I can remember the first session that I did with that guy for the squats. Literally, I only had the bar on my back. I had no weights on the side. And I did about 4 sets. I could barely lift the bar. And I can remember when I got home that afternoon, I had to go to bed because I felt like a truck had hit me. Bear in mind, I'd not done exercise for like 7, 8 years. And then I'd gone to the gym and done these 4 exercises. And yeah, I felt floored by that, but I didn't give up. And quickly I started to put on weight. I started to put on muscle, and people commented and they said, God, Gabs, like, you look great. You're doing really well. At the time when I look back, I was still like really skinny, like compared to what I am now. I was still like really slim, but I looked so much better. My face filled out. My eyes had that sparkle back. I feel like when you've got an eating disorder, it just drains the life out of every cell in your body, and it just takes your soul. Having an eating disorder just completely takes your soul. You're disconnected from your body, your mind, your soul. You're just in shutdown mode, and that life force within you is just completely diminished to a tiny little spark. But I reignited that, and literally I felt like there was a roaring fire within me again, and I felt so much better. And I can remember a friend, my good friend from university, Charlotte, she said to me, she was like, God, Gabs, I always just thought you were naturally skinny. She was like, but now, like, I realize you're not meant to have been that skinny. Like, you look great now. And do you mean I was still slim? So I am naturally slim, but I wasn't naturally meant to be that skinny. So now that I'm fully healed, what does my exercise routine look like? What does my relationship with food look like? Honestly, over the years, I have just become more and more relaxed and more flexible. I can remember around the time when I was 24, when I was healing, just started healing from my eating disorder. I noticed that a few girls who had eating disorders, they got straight into the gym and they were bodybuilding, and I realized they just swapped one obsession for the other. And I felt like they still had an eating disorder. They still had anorexia, but it was under the disguise of going to the gym and building muscle and getting strong. But they were obsessing about body fat percentage and macros and measuring their food, weighing their food, still calorie counting and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but what I'm saying is I noticed when I was healing, that didn't feel right for me. I wanted to have this flexible approach. I didn't want to be measuring food. I didn't want measurements or calculations or anything like that. Or I just wanted to feel free. So I was really strict with myself to make sure that I didn't fall into that trap. But now my diet and exercise, literally, I go to the gym 4 times a week for about an hour. I do weight training and I do cardio. I don't do tons of cardio. I probably do 20 minutes on the stepper twice a week. And then I do 2 lower body sessions with weights, and I do 2 upper body sessions. And sometimes maybe I'll do 3 times a week if I've not got a chance to fit in 4. People ask me, how do I stay motivated? But for me, I go to the gym 4 times a week. That means I've got 3 days to rest. So for me, there's no excuse. I go in, absolutely smash it for an hour, give 100%, 110%, and then I know I've got 3 days rest. So that's how I look at it in my mind. I just think go in, feel strong, burn some calories, feel good about yourself, get those endorphins pumping, and then you've got 3 days to rest and recover. In terms of my diet, I have made some changes to my diet recently. So, like I said, when I started with my eating disorder, that's when I went vegetarian because I was trying to cut out eating meat and just cutting calories. I actually stuck to that. So I went from being vegetarian to pescatarian. No, actually, at the start, I was pescatarian. So I started off as pescatarian. So that means I ate fish and veg, but not meat. Then when I think I was 26, 28. When I was 28, I turned vegan. But last year, I stopped being vegan. And that is because it was giving me issues with my stomach. I was constantly bloated, constantly gassy. I was literally having to take pills for like bloating and gas. And I was like, this isn't normal. Your diet should make you feel good and you shouldn't be having stomach issues with your diet. But it's because on the vegan diet, you're eating loads of like lentils, beans, tofu, vegan protein powder. So I stopped being vegan. I've actually done a video on that. So if you click at the top of the screen, you can view that video now. So now I'm vegetarian. So now I'm pescatarian. So I eat veggies, fruits, pasta, rice. I eat eggs. I eat yogurt quite regularly. I eat cheese. And sometimes I eat fish. Even though I say I'm pescatarian, you might think, oh, yeah, she eats fish every week. No, to be honest, we never buy fish in the weekly shop. I've just started eating fish sometimes on holiday. That's it. So really, I'm 90% vegetarian most of the time. Going from vegan to pescatarian, introducing dairy into my diet has made me feel so much better. I'm not constantly bloated. I've not constantly got gas. So that's made me feel so much better. And I absolutely adore animals, but I need to put my health first, and I want to feel comfortable every day with what I'm eating. I want to feel comfortable in my body. I want to feel like I'm thriving, not that I'm struggling every day with stomach issues. So I had to put my health first in this instance. Also, some changes that I've made recently. I felt like before I was falling into the trap of being obsessed with protein. And honestly, I just got sick of that. It had a hold over me. And I feel like anything that's got a hold over me, I want to break through it and feel free and not let this thing control me. So recently, I've given up eating protein powder. So for the most part, I want to eat super healthy and be conscious of what I'm putting into my body and eat foods, whole foods that are in their natural form. Protein powder is processed and it had some things in there. It's got like gums in there and emulsifiers and stuff like that. And I was having a scoop of protein powder every single day, at least one scoop. That's 365 scoops a year. And there were some ingredients in the protein powder that I weren't happy with. And to be honest, I didn't enjoy it. I used to put it into my overnight oats and I just did not enjoy it at all. Like, not at all, but it just ruined. I feel like with protein powder, it ruins whatever you put into it. So I stopped doing that recently. Part of me didn't want to give it up because I was like, oh, I'm going to lose 20 grams of protein a day. Oh, my muscles are going to shrivel down. I've not even got that much muscle anyway. I find it really hard to build muscle. And I think part of that is because I don't eat meat. Um, but yeah, I'm not in the mind frame where I feel like I want to eat meat. I actually tried meat at the beginning of this year. I tried some chicken and I didn't like it. So yeah. But yeah, I just feel like I've given up this obsession with protein. I've incorporated more stuff into my diet, like eggs and yogurt, and I just feel more free. And I feel like I've got a really healthy relationship with food. I do eat chocolate. I will, when I go out, I don't pick the healthiest option. Like I'll have a whole pizza to myself. I don't restrict myself, but 85% of the time I do eat healthy. I try and stick to dark chocolate. So recently, I've been trying not to eat as much sugar because sugar, it causes inflammation in the body. And the more I hear about it, I just think it's really not good for us. So I eat like 85% dark chocolate and I've been having like a little bar of that every day recently. If I go on a holiday, so we recently went on a holiday, me and my boyfriend, we went to Fuerteventura. I had ice cream every single day. And I know that doesn't tie in with what I've just said about reducing sugar, but when I'm on a holiday, sometimes I just let loose. And we had ice cream every single day. We were having cakes as well most days. So yeah, on holiday, I let loose sometimes. But then when I came back, got back on like eating whole foods for the majority of the time. Also, when it comes to my training, recently, to be honest, I used to train like really heavy. I used to lift really heavy weights. And I can remember like when I was doing my glute thrusts, so glute thrust where you have the bar over you, you put the weights on. I was glute thrusting like 200 kg and that became very unenjoyable very fast. Literally just loading the bar was a workout in itself. And I just got sick of it. So recently I've really decreased the weight that I lift and I do higher reps. So maybe I'll do like between 12 to 15 reps and I do it at a moderate weight. I don't go really high. To be honest, recently, I've not even been like tracking my weight in the gym. Like I've not been like increasing it or like writing it down. I've just been turning up, trying to push myself, getting a sweat on, feeling good, getting my heart pumping, like maintaining my strength and then getting out of there because I think recently I just want to enjoy my sessions and enjoy moving my body and not be, do you mean I'm not an athlete? I'm not a bodybuilder. Basically, my goals now, I want to be strong. I want a strong body, a strong, agile body, and I want to eat foods that are healthy but also delicious and varied. I also did a video recently on this whole topic of not lifting heavy anymore, and I was actually doing a bulk and I just stopped doing that. I'm never ever bulking again, so you can click at the top of the screen if you want to view that video. But yeah, in that video I talk about my diet changes and my exercise changes in more detail. So to conclude this video, my final words of advice: if you have got an eating disorder, the issue that you've got that you need to focus on is dealing with that narrative in your head. That narrative is beating you down and making you feel that you're not good enough, that you need to be skinny to be happy. So you need to focus on changing that narrative. My top pieces of advice to change that narrative: I do journaling every day. I do a page of journaling, positive affirmations. That's really helped me. Number two, you need to calm your body. If you've got an eating disorder, you have got anxiety, no doubt you've got depression. Your body is in a state of flight or fight all the time, or you're in shutdown mode. You need to soothe your body and calm your body. So start doing things like meditation, breath work. I do this every day. And the way, when you calm your body, it calms your mind. You have less thoughts. Your thoughts are more positive. You have less negative thoughts. And you don't have this tendency to immediately latch on to a negative thought and believe it and act on it. You sort of step back into this role of being the observer of your thoughts, not getting attached to all your thoughts and not acting on them. So yeah, number one, you got to address that voice in your head, because that voice is literally sabotaging your life and causing you to hurt yourself. Number two, you need to work on your self-love. If you've got an eating disorder, you have not got any self-love. You've got very minimal amounts of self-love, and you need to understand what self-love is. When I used to hear this when I was sick with my mental health and eating disorders, oh, you need to love yourself, I used to just roll my eyes. Oh, the spiritual woo-woo concept, oh, you got to love yourself. I thought if only it was that easy. But recently I've realized exactly what self-love is, and it's taking simple steps every single day, having a routine every single day that sets you up to thrive. I've done a video on the 6 steps, I think it's 6 or 7 steps that I took to love myself, and I stick by those every single day, and it has completely transformed my life. So if you click at the top of the screen, you can view that video. But yeah, understanding how to love myself has single-handedly transformed my life, and it now stops me from hurting myself. My third piece of advice, but to be honest, actually this should have been the first piece of advice, is to seek professional help. Speak to your friends, speak to your family, reach out for support. That is the number one thing that I did not do. I didn't confide in my family or friends. I felt ashamed, I felt embarrassed, and I didn't get professional help. I healed myself on my own. But really, if I'd have sought professional help at the age of 17, maybe I would have been healed in 1 or 2 years instead of spending 7 years of my life consumed by this disease. And remember, be kind with yourself. Don't punish your body. You have been gifted with this body in this life, and it is your responsibility to look after it. One thing that's helped me is thinking my body every single day is working in the background to keep me alive. If there's anything toxic going into my body, it's there straight away trying to eliminate it. My heart's pumping, my lungs are going all the time to keep me alive. So don't disrespect that. Don't work against that. Help your body to thrive and keep yourself strong for the future. When you've got an eating disorder, you're so frail, you're so weak, you're so susceptible to picking up germs and diseases that could just take you out like that because you're so weak. Set yourself up to be strong. Anyway, guys, I'm going to conclude this video. If you enjoyed this video and found it useful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you all next time.